there's various mechanisms that the insurance industry already knows to handle the people trying to game the system, from deductibles to, well, conditions of application. And we're just going to continue that line with our partners and helping them. You can also adapt to something in the insurance industry called parametric insurance, which is basically an insurance policy or an insurance contract that can be triggered by a oracle, right? By a real world event that you feed into the blockchain through an oracle. Think about travel insurance or earthquake insurance.
What's up, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central, your home for everything blockchain and crypto. I'm your host here, Fareed. As a part of today's video, we're talking about insurance and Fida finance. Now, I'm going to be joined by Rodolfo Hansen, the CEO and the founder of this protocol here on Cardano. Without any further ado, let's bring up today's guest. Rodolfo, welcome up. Happy to have you.
Hi, Fareed. So glad to be here.
I'm excited for this conversation. So you and I have spoken prior to this a little bit, and you sort of clued me into the whole entire insurance ecosystem. And this is actually one area that I've really overlooked here when it comes to blockchain applications. So I'm excited to talk about, your background, your experience with insurance, and then exactly what Fida Finance is bringing you into the Cardano ecosystem. Now, as always, I like to kick things off here with a little bit of background with all of the guests that I bring here upstage. And so without any further ado, over to you, a little bit about, your background, your history, your experience, and then why Cardano?
Those are excellent questions. So I've been lurking, I guess, in the crypto space since the Bitcoin white paper came out. I'm one of those early adopting tech developer enthusiasts who remembers when the Bitcoin faucet was available and you just type in an address and get free Bitcoins. I've obviously lost all the Bitcoins I mined originally because it was still a little bit of a nice concept, a nice idea. I wasn't sure was going to make it, and since then, I'm a full convert on the push and need for decentralization, and Cardano as a technology stack, as a governance system, as a community, really honors and believes decentralization is paramount. And that's why I'm here. So I've been in Cardano since just before the Shelley hard fork. I learned about it from Philip Wadler at a functional programming conference in 2019. And here we are. If you want to ask why Cardano for Fida, it's because of the security guarantees and the performance characteristics match our needs.
So you're technically an OG. I'm excited to have you here. Fida, what is Fida for anybody who hasn't heard of it, and exactly what benefits is offered to the general Cardano ecosystem?
Fida is the start of the insurance industry on Cardano. If we're really focused as a community on decentralizing how the world works, insurance is the next industry to fall, right? General finance, we've got it down. We can make transfers. We can do DeFi. Next step is, how do you protect ourselves, right? How do we get the security to go about our daily activities, be it farming, be it driving, or just living, and not be beholden to some centralized mechanism that governs how we do that. So as that first step, what we have is a risk transfer engine that allows for the crowdsourcing of investing in insurance contracts.
And for anybody who maybe just doesn't understand insurance in general, I think you gave me a really great breakdown, right? And you've talked about a main insurer, and then a reinsurer. Do you mind breaking that down here for today's viewers as well, to give them a better understanding?
Perfect. Yes, of course. So everybody normally knows is insurance as like Geico or a website that they go to and they find out how much will it cost them every month to insure their car or get life insurance or what be it, right? House insurance. But the reality is that there's a whole industry behind that. And these insurers that you know normally actually need to get insurance themselves. And that's a process called reinsurance. And that's how it allows for a little bit more capital efficiency in the traditional space, so that a reinsurer that wants, sorry, an insurance agency that wants to, for example, get not just two clients, but say 10 or 100 clients for life insurance, instead of needing the whole capital for all those policies to have them as guarantees, they go to reinsurers that then back them on the amount extra that they need, right? And in this ecosystem, where Fida fits in is at that last end, where if you're an insurance broker, if you have an insurance company, maybe you're offering life insurance to your 10 best friends, right? Or fire protection across your neighborhood, right? And then you need, in case of, to cover them legally, right? To be able to um, like have the money they need if a claim files in, then you need a lot of money. You need, let's say, if it's 10 policies for 1 million, you need $10 million, right? And you then go to a reinsurer and you agree, okay, I will put in one. All right, I have 1 million and that'll cover just one of my guys, but I need another nine, right? And then the reinsurers, okay, we will back you for those other 9 million. Just share the premiums with us, right? Share what they are paying monthly. Say we'll take just 85%. You get um, the other 15. So we split the collateral 90 and 10, but the premiums 15 and 85. And that tactic, what it leads to is the centralization of insurance, right? You get bigger and bigger reinsurers at the end that then are able to sort of dictate what small insurance companies can actually do with their customers. And FIDA breaks that up and instead crowdsources, say you still want those 9 million, you need those 9 million. What we're going to do is tokenize it, fractionalize it, and make a capacity card or an NFT that multiple investors, 1,000, 10,000, can then put in their smaller amount and participate in insurance as an investment vehicle, sharing uh, the proceeds, right? The premiums that you would otherwise pay.
And so, using Cardano, are you able to maybe highlight for the viewers how they can actually participate in this, right? Because you talked about sort of crowdsourcing the funds
Yep.
that typically one single entity as the reinsurer would have. So how does the average ADA holder play a part in this, and how are they rewarded? Because it sounds like now they'll be able to contribute to that pot. And if I'm not mistaken, that'll all actually be kept on chain. And so I also want to talk about security after this initial response.
Yeah, perfect. So basically, you go to our application, and what you will see is a list of policies that you could choose to invest in. There's going to be a PDF that describes all the terms. You can see the rating that we've given it, and you could see the expected return on investment and what the insurance industry calls loss ratio. And loss ratio is basically the amount of claims deducted from the premiums the policy makes over the premiums. So a 50% loss ratio means that for every dollar you made in premiums, 50 cents went to claims, right? and that's the main number reinsurers look at. It's like, okay, what's the loss ratio? And then from there you'll see, okay, so the premiums are going to, and the loss ratio are going to dictate my ROI. So yeah, you go there, you buy the cards, you'll have a loss ratio, and you'll have a an ROI that you can look at.
Perfect. So I mentioned security earlier. You know, um, in this space, crowdfunding I think is it's not unique in its own. There's a lot of different protocols that use crowdfunding. But one thing that is important is making sure that users' funds are never at risk, right? We've seen platforms, for example, like Celsius going down, where even though they're doing crowdfunding or asking people to sort of send in funds, they're centralizing a lot of that. How are you guys doing things differently? And then from a smart contract perspective, how are you guys ensuring that things are actually secure?
Okay, so like everything that you do with money, there's risks involved. In the case of investing in insurance, it is negative loss ratios. So a loss ratio of 100% means you lost your premiums, but did not lose the capital that you bought the cards with. Right? When it starts getting negative, you're now losing on the original capital, right? So you put in, let's say, 1,000 ADA, and you expect over the course of the policy to make 150 ADA return, right? So an expected ROI of 15%. There's always the possibility that, say, it was life insurance, and these people were on the same flight, and you got a negative loss ratio, which means that you maybe lost 50% of, I'm being very dramatic, right, to be clear, of your capital due to this world-ending event. I don't know, there was a war. So the mechanisms that we have to make this clear for you are threefold. At the initial version, you basically have the risk rating. So it's going to start with a federated version of us validating who these brokers are, who these people are that are bringing in the policies to invest in. We've luckily been able to talk with other people. Remember, I said some time ago, like in this call, that it's a start of an ecosystem. So we're building the whole ecosystem. I know a couple of people thinking about life insurance or cybersecurity insurance, so protection against rug pulls and identity theft, and um, various other verticals in the insurance space. So first, we're going to work with them. We're going to help the industry mature, and then we have a plan to fully decentralize the mechanism with a token. We're working on those tokenomics, some of those simulations, but you could think of a broker needing to stake this token in order to get access to capacity, right? And then investors and token holders are able to delegate based on the trust they have for the broker towards, okay, yes, we agree, we're going to augment his capacity to operate over the network. And you're obviously, as an investor, going to be able to look at the history of the broker, right? Their past 12 policies, how well they did. So they have a historic ROI. We're also going to have a social labeling, so brokers are going to be able to sort of get badges and be a diamond or bronze broker. And at that point, it's a much more decentralized process of selecting and choosing who to back, right? Which communities, which insurance groups are worth your money.
And so I want to clear up here what happens if the insurer needs use of the funds from the reinsurer. So as an ADA holder, let's say, I end up providing funds to crowdsource where I'm able to earn from some of the premiums that you discussed earlier. What happens if an insurance company actually needs to make a claim that then taps into the reserves for the reinsurer? Could you break down that process and if there's a repayment involved? And maybe again, just sort of like what risks, right, are the people that are crowdfunding exposed to from that perspective?
Perfect. Let's go with the first stage. At the first stage, there's basically a claims manager within Fida that works with the insurer on what the situation is, what the proper paperwork is. Everything leaves a trail on chain on what were the circumstances that led to a claim as filed by the broker being approved. And once everything is approved, then the smart contracts or the validation scripts on chain work to get the money to the address registered at the policy. At a
Perfect.
later stage,
Hmm.
it's a DAO vote, right? You reuse the same token, right, for the same tokenomics, and then you get the ability to have multiple claims managers authorize and validate the process in a decentralized way. And this is the mechanism for within Cardano for Cardano as a nation state. You can also add, because it's programmable, you can also adapt to something in the insurance industry called parametric insurance, which is basically an insurance policy or an insurance contract that can be triggered parametrically, or that can be triggered by a oracle, right? By a real world event that you feed into the blockchain through an oracle. Think about travel insurance or earthquake insurance. And in the first case, you got insured for your flight to Morocco. There's enough data feeds in the internet that you could have an oracle. You can ask the oracle for, was the flight you booked and insured actually delayed or not, and have the payment for that instance just be triggered automatically by the oracle inserting that valid proof of your flight being canceled, your flight being delayed, or with satellite information on whether it rained, and so on and so forth, right? An agreed upon truth that you bring in through oracles and remove the manual step when needed.
And I do have a follow-up question for you. So let me pull this up here. So we're taking a look right now at the Fida finance roadmap. Do you mind breaking down where you guys are in the course of development, what's currently available, any plans for testnet or mainnet launch?
So the summit is coming along real soon. Maybe we have a surprise there. Phase one is complete. There is a CLI that you can find on our GitHub repository that you could play around with yourself. If you are a developer, we have a documentation page with a lot of the workflows. We still need to update a couple of changes in design that we made since we started. We've been able to do this thanks to a Catalyst proposal in Fund 11 that basically got the community the CLI, right, the command line interface for running a copy, right, your own version of the risk transfer engine. The later phases are in development. The web app, we have a prototype, so a clickable user experience designer that we're working on, and an MVP should be ready for the summit.
That is big breaking news. I'm definitely going to have to cover that with you in person because I definitely will be at the summit myself. Um, that said, you've talked about different verticals. Could you highlight what industries you plan to cover, once you guys do begin. Because again, I think there's the traditional markets where you've mentioned, auto insurance, flight insurance. People are super familiar with that. But what other insurance use cases could we actually see that maybe are more Web3 or crypto friendly? You talked about rug insurance. That's a really interesting not perspective, but interesting scenario. Could you
Yeah.
break down how people could insure themselves against rugs, against stolen NFTs, or whatever the case might be? And then also, as a follow up, how you guys could potentially stop the gamification of that, right? Because again, you could definitely bet that there's going to be fake claims or fake attempts to like draw in some of the insurance money.
So I'll answer the latter part of your question first with the comment that insurance is actually the OG of incentives alignment, right? For an insurer, the wording of the contract and the conditions under which, that's what people get people riled up all the time. It's like, what do you mean that my insurance doesn't cover it, right? So they actually, there's various mechanisms that the insurance industry already knows to handle the people trying to game the system, from deductibles to, well, conditions of application. And we're just gonna continue that line with our partners and helping them. So that leads immediately to our first partner, which I hope I can announce if it's, yeah, it's regular knowledge. It's a project called Pains, and they are the ones that are driving cybersecurity insurance. They have an awesome project, an awesome idea on how they can. They're working with other people in the ecosystem like Cerberus and um, CrowdTrends to organize and predict and confirm, automate the process of identifying valid rug pools and working on with I can't remember, they have a Web2 partner, so a traditional cybersecurity partner to help you recover your assets in case of a loss or in case of a failure, pairing with Cerberus and Science. There's a whole operation that they're setting up, and we're going with them on the summit. So we'll both be there to talk about sort of the first baby steps of insurance on Cardano.
Nicely stated. Now, for the viewers, I'm trying to think about what comes next, right? So let's say you're able to tackle insurance on Cardano. Are there any hopes of going multi-chain, maybe looking at new verticals? You guys are still at a very early stage, but what's sort of the long-term vision for Fida?
Well, the long-term vision is to eliminate the coverage gap. As it stands, there's $10 trillion worth of insurance policies that don't get funded. So that includes last year, the government of, I'm going to say Morocco, I can't remember, needed to flood protection for its one of its main cities, and they could only afford an eighth of what was recommended. And now the city had a flood, and it is in a situation where it doesn't have the money to rebuild. It's a failed city. There's insurance companies in the US that are also getting denied by reinsurers because of climate change. The risk for flood protection in Louisiana, even in Texas and Florida, is making it so that they can't operate. And our goal is to make the whole process more efficient by having the blockchain, Cardano, be in the middle, by reusing and being more capital efficient even than the current centralized status quo, and actually being able to offer insurance for the uninsured. That's the
And so,
ultimate goal.
got it, got it. I think that's a wonderful goal. Again, I think right now the market shares available. A lot of people I think would use or need the insurance. And I mentioned this to you in our initial conversation. I just didn't think about bringing insurance into the crypto space. But with what you've mentioned, the crowdfunding, the security, everything being on chain, right? You talked about, and maybe you could rehash it very quickly here, how there was a reinsurer that
Yes.
had signed a contract that was getting paid, but then when the actual insurer came to get, support from the reinsurer, it was found that they actually didn't have the funds, right? So with auditable smart contracts, we can make sure that nobody can sort of play around with the funds. But then using the blockchain, if it's a smart contract, there should theoretically be some sort of address that anybody, right, can use to verify that those assets are actually there, right? So you can actually call the reinsurer's bluff if you want to. So again, I'd love to maybe hear a little bit about that. And then as we get ready to close down, I also want to talk about the founders NFT collection and some of the perks of that as well.
Perfect. So yes, that was a pretty big scandal. That was a $4 billion scandal. The current assumption or the current understanding is that the company in question uh, conspired with a Chinese bank to issue them notes of credit so that they had those $4 billion deposited, and with that money they went and got reinsurance contracts that they were collecting premiums on. So what happened was that, well, a couple of claims came in, and all of a sudden they their bluff was called. They had to pay out more than they actually had, and the whole thing got uncovered. The whole scandal for the $4 billion got completely uncovered. That there was zero backing for $4 billion worth of insurance contracts that, had something happened, would have left everyone unprotected because it was insolvent. So that is actually, you would expect it to be impossible first, but also more rare. Like every couple of years, there's a smaller, medium-sized reinsurer that gets caught. The problem is that as it stands, the incentives are completely misaligned. The regulators, right? So the countries under which these contracts are signed have no other choice but to say, well, we trust you. What are your books say? Run a simulation for us. What would happen, like if all of your, or a fraction of your liabilities claims get filed? Like, can you handle a 1 in a 200-year event? And then the reinsurer is obviously going to say, yeah, of course we can. Yeah, sure. Look, here's here's our simulation. But the regulators have no access to either how they did it often, or even if whether it's true that they do have the money, right? And crypto is all about verify and don't trust. So one of the features that Fida can give is a regulatory agency the ability to just run the simulation themselves. You can audit the whole of the Fida platform because it's all on chain. All the assets are Cardano native assets, and you run. It's 100. It's actually 100% collateralized. It's 100% there. So even if all the claims get filed, we will be able to pay.
Let's jump into the founders NFTs. Can you highlight where people can pick those up and what the utility of those are?
Well, we're going to announce a couple of partnerships, and we're going to try to distribute them correctly. I haven't minted them. We haven't minted them, so they're not technically on chain yet. They will be. And the utility they offer is really interesting. It's really nice. So we planned them to sort of gain utility as the ecosystem evolves, right? As Fida evolves. First of all, you get the nice ability to prove and verify that you're an OG in insurance. The next era of insurance, right? Decentralized insurance is definitely the future. But also you get you get discounts, you get ability to pick first, as an investor. So there's a limited amount of cards that get fractionalized into the policies. So you can imagine that the most reputable brokers are going to get the most attention for their cards. So you get a ranking, you get the ability to go there first. If As we decentralize the system further, some of the founders editions will be able to run a node, right? The nodes that, for example, automate the work with oracles to activate a claim, process the payout mechanism, and etc. So there's a whole set of nice benefits that we want to, and utility that we want to give these NFTs. So it's not just a um, uh, uh, a nice to have or a vanity artifact. We also want to, for example, I forgot this one, but you can establish a fund. So maybe the process of investing is actually hard. Like, okay, which policies do I pick? Which policies work or not? So one of the things we want to do is, again, we get carried away. It's very ambitious. We're trying to do things just one small step at a time. But eventually, as we succeed, as we move forward, if you hold the founder's NFT, you can start a fund where you manage a set of portfolios, and then people can just deposit your ADA, deposit your coins, and then trust you that you will handle the insurance portfolio for them.
Noted. Sounds very similar to the DREP concept that we just got here in Cardano with governance. Rodolfo, we've covered and touched on quite a bit here. I want to just thank you first and foremost for breaking down the insurance industry, talking about reinsuring, and then Fida Finance and what you guys are doing to bring that on chain to reduce any of the transparency hurdles that we've had, and then to make this available to anybody to invest in and earn a little bit of that reinsurance premium. As we get ready to close out, any final key thoughts that you want to share with the community? And then last but not least, how can anybody join in to the FIDA ecosystem?
Well, that's exactly the call to arms, I want to say. So it's been a grueling effort for us. We're doing this completely self-funded, as we all know. Getting funding for Cardano projects from VCs is not terribly easy. But join our Discord, and help us build, help us prove that this is going to work, that this is the future.
Perfect. Quick and succinct. I couldn't ask for more. We've been going for about 35 minutes here, Rodolfo. Again, I want to thank you for joining me here, breaking down FIDA. I'll leave the links to everything that you've mentioned down below for the viewers. So that includes obviously the official website, all the documentation, and then also the socials, which include Twitter and Discord. That said, I appreciate you. And again, look forward to catching up, shaking your hand, and chatting a little bit about what's going to be released at the upcoming Cardano Summit. And hopefully we can take some time to get some content out. And I'd love to follow up to talk about, what those announcements are post summit. For you, the viewer watching at home, if you've enjoyed any portion of today's interview, sitting down, talking about insurance here with Rodolfo, I would appreciate you if you could smash that thumbs up. It really helps me as a content creator, but also helps to educate and let other people know outside of Cardano what we've got building here right now in the network. In addition, if you want more content just like this, consider subscribing to the channel, Dapp Central. And last but not least, if you have any questions for Rodolfo or me about anything we've discussed today, then make sure to go ahead and leave a comment down below. That said, and as always, we'll see you all in the next video. Cheers, everybody.